Let me ask you something simple yet quietly powerful. When was the last time your birthday truly felt special? Not just another quiet morning, briefly interrupted by a few polite texts and predictable greetings, but genuinely special, the way it did when you were a child. Do you remember waking up that morning, heart pounding with anticipation, believing the world revolved around you just for today? You pictured the balloons, the cake, your parents smiling warmly, whispering, "Make a wish," and you trusted deeply that the universe cared enough to celebrate your existence. But perhaps there was one birthday when nobody showed up. Maybe you sat by the window, waiting silently, watching the street until the sky grew dark. You remember the empty table, the untouched cake, and the quiet humiliation of realizing no one remembered. In that moment, you learned a painful truth. Expecting too much only leads to disappointment. From then on, each year you trained yourself to say, "It's just another day." And slowly it became true. Not because you stopped caring, but because it felt safer to pretend you didn't. Now your birthday feels ordinary because you've built a wall around yourself, carefully shielding you from ever feeling unwanted again. But here's the truth you rarely admit. Beneath your calm, indifferent exterior still lives that child by the window, quietly hoping someone remembers. And if you sometimes secretly feel sadness or longing when your birthday quietly slips by unnoticed, listen closely. That feeling isn't weakness. It's a normal human desire, a genuine need to be seen, heard, and remembered. So, what if this quiet indifference you've carried isn't maturity, but a silent cry to protect yourself from being hurt again? And what would happen if, for once, you allowed yourself to confront that day instead of turning away? The quiet indifference you feel toward your birthday today isn't random. It's your carefully crafted armor, built piece by piece since childhood. At first glance, it seems like maturity, emotional balance, something to be proud of. But if you dare to look deeper, you'll recognize it's actually something far more delicate, a shield you've created against years of silent disappointment. Remember the child you once were, full of anticipation, waiting eagerly by the window or staring anxiously at the door? Your heart skipped every time the phone rang, hoping it was someone who remembered, someone who cared. But gradually, you began to notice. The door remained closed, the phone stopped ringing, the cake sat untouched, candles slowly dripping wax onto an empty table. You learned quietly, painfully, that waiting meant disappointment. That expectation often led to loneliness, so your young mind adapted. Without fully understanding, your brain built a defense, something psychologists call emotional self-protection, a way of numbing excitement to avoid the ache of unmet expectations. Year by year, birthday by birthday, you taught yourself not to hope, not to expect too much. If you didn't anticipate celebration, you couldn't be hurt when it never arrived. This is precisely what psychology identifies as avoidant validation behavior. You stopped looking outward for recognition because you learned early on that needing validation was risky. It meant admitting you were vulnerable, that you needed others to notice you, and vulnerability was something you quickly discovered you couldn't afford. Instead, you pretended it didn't matter. You convinced yourself you didn't need anyone to remember, to care, to celebrate you. But here's the cost. Over time, that protective wall you built around yourself quietly dulled your joy. Without realizing it, you stopped experiencing birthdays, reducing them to just another routine day. You've become the polite guest at a party you never wanted, smiling quietly while feeling disconnected from your own celebration. It's as though you sit at a table set for someone else, gazing at the empty chair, silently acknowledging your invisibility. Do you remember that birthday when you were a child? The one you pretended didn't hurt you? The room was decorated, cake ready, candles burning patiently, yet no one showed. You cut the cake alone, sang happy birthday quietly to yourself, whispered softly, It's okay, I'm used to it. Even now, you might tell yourself the same story, but deep down, something in you still questions, did I ever truly matter? If you carry that quiet sadness, let me validate it clearly for you. Your pain is real. Your disappointment is valid. The longing to be remembered isn't childish, it's deeply human. You're not weak or irrational. You're simply protecting yourself from feeling forgotten again. Because here's the truth you rarely acknowledge. Your birthday symbolizes something powerful. The right to be seen simply because you exist. And if that fundamental need wasn't honored when you were young, your adult self will continue to avoid facing it. You'll quietly insist it's just another day, because acknowledging your birthday means confronting that empty chair at your own celebration. So now, let me ask you something honest, something maybe you've spent years avoiding. When you pretend your birthday doesn't matter, whose absence from the past are you still trying to protect yourself from feeling? Today, you move quietly through your birthday, carefully sidestepping attention. You decline celebrations, wave off greetings, and skillfully redirect conversations whenever someone brings it up. On the surface, you appear confident, emotionally mature, even detached, someone who's outgrown the childish need for special recognition. Yet deep within, something feels painfully unsettled. Notice how you tense slightly when a genuine birthday wish arrives, delivered with sincerity. Instead of feeling warmth, you sense suspicion. Your mind questions their intention. Why are they saying this? Do they really mean it? You quickly dismiss the warmth offered, convinced it's safer not to believe it because disappointment always feels worse when you've allowed yourself hope. This behavior isn't random. It's rooted deeply in a part of you still aching, the child within, who once learned that needing attention brought more pain than joy. Every avoidance, every polite deflection, is your unconscious attempt at self-protection, a shield you built layer by layer around past disappointments. Because beneath the surface of your outward composure is a lingering truth. You're still the child waiting quietly by the window, holding an unopened gift, desperately hoping someone might see you without being asked. The link between your current behavior and that childhood wound is unmistakable. Each time your birthday was forgotten or overlooked, a subtle message etched itself into your mind. My presence isn't important enough to be celebrated. Your inner child internalized this neglect, carrying it forward into adulthood. Now, rather than risk facing that feeling again, you remove yourself entirely from your own celebration, choosing invisibility over vulnerability. It's as if you're standing outside the glass, watching a party set in your honor, a party no one remembers to invite you into. According to renowned psychologist Alice Miller, childhood emotional neglect becomes an invisible wound we carry silently into adulthood, shaping our self-perception and relationships. Unconsciously, you adopt a subtle strategy known as avoidant validation, a coping mechanism where you actively avoid situations that may trigger unmet emotional needs. You keep expectations low, believing this emotional detachment makes you strong. But each act of indifference further isolates the child within, reinforcing the quiet belief that you don't truly deserve recognition, warmth, or genuine care. Consider how easily you celebrate others. You're the first to remember friends' birthdays, to organize surprise celebrations, to carefully choose thoughtful gifts. You extend the exact warmth and recognition you once craved, hoping to heal through giving what you were denied. Yet, ironically, when your turn comes, your response is often casual dismissal. It's fine, don't make a fuss over me. This isn't modesty or maturity. It's an unconscious tactic to numb the pain of feeling forgotten again. You bury yourself in tasks, errands, or extra work, treating your special day as any other, effectively anesthetizing your heart to the discomfort of unmet longing. Carl Jung wisely observed that Until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we'll call it fate. Your decision to quietly sideline your birthday isn't a merely practicality or adulthood. It's your unconscious steering you away from past emotional pain. Every ignored text, every deflected greeting is an echo of your younger self whispering, "I can't bear to feel unwanted again." Yet, no matter how well you perform this role of emotional neutrality, part of you still aches. Part of you still waits behind the glass, wondering if someone will finally call your name. This habit of downplaying your birthday is precisely why genuine attention feels threatening. Real care exposes cracks in your emotional armor. Someone's authentic kindness calls forth that wounded child, forcing you to confront buried feelings of worthlessness. It's easier to doubt sincerity than to accept you might truly deserve love without conditions. But consider this truth carefully. Your emotional armor isn't strength, it's survival. You're not indifferent, you're wounded. Your caution is not detachment, it's silent fear disguised as composure. It's your inner child standing uncertainly at the edge of celebration, holding back from stepping into the light because you've been forgotten too many times before. Let me ask you something crucial, something you may never have dared to confront until now. If the day finally comes when someone genuinely celebrates your presence, will you have the courage to accept it, or will you remain forever outside the window, a silent guest observing a celebration you still fear isn't meant for you? First, you need to know something crucial. You are not broken, and you are certainly not alone in feeling this way. What you're experiencing is simply a natural response from a child who once endured too many quiet disappointments. Your reluctance to acknowledge your birthday, your instinct to stay invisible, isn't a flaw. It's your inner child still trying to shield itself from being forgotten again. Healing isn't about forcing yourself into crowded celebrations or pretending you're suddenly comfortable with grand gestures. It's softer, subtler. It's about gently recognizing the truth you've hidden from yourself for years, that your existence deserves acknowledgement, first and foremost from you. Start small. Tonight, find a quiet space and allow yourself a moment of genuine connection with the child inside. Take a piece of paper and write a simple message, just a sentence or two, to that younger self who sat alone, waiting. Perhaps something like, "I see you. I'm sorry you felt forgotten. You deserve to be celebrated." Notice how these words feel, how even a simple acknowledgement can release a weight you've carried silently. Or maybe you can create a quiet ritual, something gentle and meaningful. Light a candle for yourself in a darkened room and watch its flame quietly flicker. Let it symbolize the acknowledgement your younger self always deserved but rarely received. Sit quietly, even just for a moment, and silently thank yourself for surviving, for becoming exactly who you are, despite all the disappointments. Remind yourself that your worth isn't measured by how many remember your day, but by the quiet strength you've shown in facing each year with courage and grace. Because here's the deeper truth. The most powerful recognition you can receive isn't from others. It's from your own reflection, your own quiet gaze meeting you in the mirror. Imagine holding that single candle, its soft glow illuminating your face. The flame is small but unwavering, lighting your path back toward the self-love and compassion you've withheld from yourself for too long. That quiet flame, in itself, is the real magic you seek, the gentle reassurance that your life, your existence, matters deeply. So, ask yourself this honestly. If you still remember how your heart once raced with anticipation as a child, what would happen if you allowed that child within you to finally speak again today? You might be surprised by how deeply your heart still longs for even the simplest form of recognition. And perhaps, just perhaps, one honest glance, your own eyes softly meeting your reflection in the mirror, might be enough to transform your birthday from something forgotten into something quietly sacred. once again? Are you willing to give yourself permission to finally step into your own celebration?